This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
What's next for Hunter Biden after a guilty verdict on 3 felony gun charges? I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Hamas says it has responded to a U.S.-backed proposal for a Gaza ceasefire.
Everyone's vote is in.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Foreign nationals with reported ties to ISIS detained in the United States.
Without permission and against the law.
I'm Clayton Neville.
A federal judge has struck down a 2023 Florida law that blocked gender-affirming care for transgender minors. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
President Biden has made his work on student loan debt a campaign priority, but a new poll finds little support. Jennifer King, Washington.
The children who survived the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut will be graduating high school Wednesday. I'm Julie Walker.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Guilty. President Joe Biden's son Hunter, convicted on 3 felony counts of a federal gun charge in Delaware. Correspondent John Stolnis has reaction from the White House and what's next for Hunter.
A jury found that the president's 54-year-old son committed crimes when he lied on a form to purchase a weapon, claiming he was not illegally using or addicted to drugs when, in fact, at the time he was. In a statement following the verdict, President Biden says he will accept the outcome and would, quote, continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. The president flew to Delaware to meet with his son and family after the verdict, hugging and comforting them on the tarmac before heading to their residence. Hunter Biden could face up to 25 years in prison, although as a first-time offender, he may not see any jail time. Special counsel David Weiss says it was important for his office to pursue these charges against Hunter Biden.
No one in this country is above the law. Everyone must be accountable for their actions, even this defendant.
Democrats say the Biden conviction undercuts claims by Republicans that the Biden administration Justice Department favors Democrats while going after political opponents like Donald Trump. Trump Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Newsmax says the verdict does nothing to disprove their claims.
This gun trial has been a major sideshow from the Department of Justice to distract from those real crimes and to dupe the American people into believing we have an equal system under law. We absolutely do not. And if we did, President Trump would never have been charged.
Democratic Congressman Jim McGovern critical of that thought process.
People are saying that Biden orchestrated the conviction of his own son in order to justify the criminal charges against Trump. That is how you think when you are in a cult.
Meanwhile, Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik warns they're not done going after the Bidens.
Today is the first step in delivering accountability for the Biden crime family. We must and we will continue as House Republicans to investigate the Biden crime family.
Judge Mary Ellen Noriega did not set a sentencing date, and Hunter's legal woes aren't over yet. A trial in California on 9 felony and misdemeanor tax offenses is set to get underway on September 5th. John Stolnis, Washington.
Saying it all hinges on the terrorist group Hamas, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the Middle East pushing a U.S.-backed proposal for a Gaza ceasefire, one that Israel has approved. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
I met with Prime Minister Netanyahu last night, and he reaffirmed his commitment to the proposal. I also had an opportunity to speak to Defense Minister Gallant and other senior Israelis this morning. And I think there is a strong consensus, again, behind moving forward with the proposal.
It came as Secretary of State Antony Blinken was in the Middle East trying to push through a deal that would halt the 8-month war.
Everyone has said yes, except for Hamas. And if Hamas doesn't say yes, then this is clearly on them. Everyone's vote is in, except for one vote.
Hours later, Hamas says it offered a response.
The meeting and the gathering today is a manifestation of the will of the Palestinian people to protest against the ongoing aggression of Israel and against the ongoing incursions that lead to the targeting of innocent Palestinians.
White House National Security spokesman John Kirby gave no details after Hamas appeared to stop short of outright accepting the deal, saying it wants some amendments.
We're in receipt of this reply that Hamas delivered to Qatar and to Egypt, and we are evaluating it right now.
Hamas officials are wary about whether Israel will fulfill its end of the agreement, including eventually ending the fighting and fully withdrawing from Gaza in return for all the hostages Hamas now holds. Benjamin Netanyahu has said Israel will not stop until it destroys Hamas.
The United Nations Security Council, in effect speaking for the entire international community, made it as clear as it possibly could be that this is what the world is looking for. 14 votes for, no votes against, something quite rare at the Security Council these days, and I think that speaks volumes too.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Nabbed after crossing the southern border, suspected terrorists. We'll have that and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Today's forecast includes more heavy amounts of rain for areas of Florida. The update from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
With a tropical rainstorm in progress over the Florida Peninsula, Wednesday will bring another day of intense, slow-moving downpours to parts of the Sunshine State. The greatest concentration of tropical downpours is expected over the southern portion of the peninsula, but at least a spotty afternoon thunderstorm cannot be ruled out from Gainesville to as far north as Jacksonville. As this rainstorm persists into the weekend, a piece of its energy is expected to emerge off the southeast coastline, presenting a low risk for developing into the first tropical storm of the Atlantic hurricane season. Otherwise, look for a mainly dry day across much of the southeast and northward through the mid-Atlantic and the interior northeast, and from the eastern Great Lakes into parts of the south as well, as a rather large zone of high pressure sets up. However, a departing storm means the risk for showers today in eastern and especially northern New England, and some spots from northern New Hampshire into Maine may pick up a thunderstorm before the day is over. In the center of the nation, the risk for severe thunderstorms returns after a rather quiet day on Tuesday, as a cold front sweeps across the northern plains and the upper Midwest, bringing the chance for hail, damaging winds, and a few tornadoes from Iowa, northeastern Nebraska, and northwestern Illinois through Minnesota this afternoon and lasting into the night. The rest of the plains should be dry today outside of central Texas, where a weakening stalled front can produce some thunderstorms through the day. For the west, the heat continues to build for interior sections from Arizona to Wyoming under sunshine, challenging daily record highs in some spots with dry conditions leading to an increased fire risk. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. 8 foreign nationals with reported ties to ISIS have been arrested in recent days by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Correspondent Clayton Neville has more on the story.
The 8 foreign nationals are from Tajikistan and are said to have entered the U.S. through the southern border. Officials reportedly said that the migrants were not flagged on their initial screening at the border, but the U.S. later learned information that tied the individuals to ISIS. This days after President Biden signed an executive order banning asylum when illegal border crossings pass 2,500 a day.
This ban will remain in place until the number of people trying to enter illegally is reduced to a level that our system can effectively manage.
The foreign nationals with ISIS ties were detained on immigration charges from New York, from L.A., and from Philadelphia.
If an individual chooses not to use our legal pathways, if they choose to come without permission and against the law, they'll be restricted from receiving asylum and staying in the United States. This action will help us gain control of our border, restore order into the process.
The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security is and has been warning that the U.S. is in a heightened threat environment right now. I'm Clayton Neville.
Calling it unconstitutional, a federal judge struck down a law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis that blocked gender-affirming care for transgender minors in Florida and severely restricted such treatment for adults. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has details.
A federal judge has struck down as unconstitutional a 2023 Florida law that blocked gender-affirming care for transgender minors and severely restricted such treatment for adults. The judge ruled that the state went too far when it barred transgender minors from being prescribed puberty blockers and hormonal treatments with their parents' permission, and also stopped the state from requiring that transgender adults only receive treatment from a doctor and not from a registered nurse or other qualified medical practitioners. The ban on online treatment for transgender adults was also blocked. Governor Ron DeSantis' office blasted the decision, calling it erroneous, and has vowed to appeal. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A look at junk fees by hotels when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. First, a look back at yesterday's market activity. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a volatile day for the markets yesterday, but the S&P 500 index and the NASDAQ each start trading at record highs today. It is a major data day, the latest on inflation. 8:30 this morning Eastern Time, the May CPI report, the Consumer Price Index.
As long as the CPI remains, kind of at where it's been, about 3.4%, that should be enough to keep the momentum in the market going.
Essex Investments' Nancy Pryl on CNBC. So that's data point number one, inflation. Then later today, we get a Fed decision on interest rates. It's widely expected to hold them steady, but Fed Chair Jay Powell will answer questions about the economy and investors will be listening. That's data load number two. Apple shares hit a fresh all-time high yesterday, market cap topping $3 trillion after investors initially gave a big yawn to the company's AI plans for new iPhones. CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer says he spoke with Apple's CEO and he's sold on it.
I spent a lot of time talking to Tim Cook, CEO. Unless you own the Pro or the Pro Max 15, you're going to want to upgrade. I think there's a lot of little things that add up to something that's incrementally revolutionary.
A shocker in the negotiations for Skydance to take over Paramount Global. Looks like it's not happening. Control over Paramount is held by Sherry Redstone within the National Amusements Company. CNBC's David Faber says the two sides couldn't agree on non-economic terms. Employees at Paramount Pictures, CBS News, and Comedy Central, among other properties, have some jitters over the future of the company.
It's not just the overnight stay at hotels. When you check out, there's many fees you never thought you'd encounter, and that's raised some eyebrows in Washington.
It looks like there's a lot of support even from hotels to be transparent about fees, at least in their advertising. But some say, of course, that's because hotels don't ever advertise their prices, while others say at least it's a start.
These so-called junk fees are so unpopular that they're bringing Republicans and Democrats together. Now, hotels have said that these fees help support things like Wi-Fi, transportation, other amenities. But Lauren Wolf, who's the counsel for Travelers United, has said that she's found that's not true.
Everything goes into the same bucket of money. It's not paying for any special amenities.
The American Hotel and Lodging Association has defended the fees, but they, as well as top hotel chains and Airbnb, are supporting this legislation, saying it's going to be beneficial to have one national standard for how hotel costs should be advertised.
CNBC's Emily Wilkins. On today's watch list, as we told you, the latest on inflation coming this morning, a Fed decision on interest rates this afternoon. Earnings are coming today from Broadcom and Dave & Buster's.
There's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, Sandy Hook students graduate after these messages. This is America in the Morning. 4 officers have been indicted for a shootout in Florida that left several dead. Correspondent Jennifer King has details.
A South Florida police union says 4 officers have been indicted by a grand jury for a shootout during a UPS hijacking that left the driver, 2 robbers, and a bystander dead. The South Florida Police Benevolent Association is criticizing the Broward County State Attorney's Office for seeking the indictment. The father of UPS driver Frank Ordonez called his shooting police negligence and murder at the time. The tragedy began in 2019 when 2 cousins, Lamar Alexander and Ronnie Jerome Hill, robbed a jeweler's in Coral Gables. They carjacked Ordonez's van and fled into Miramar in a wild chase and gunfight broadcast on live TV. Charging a Florida law enforcement officer for an on-duty killing is highly unusual. In the last 40 years, only 1 officer has been convicted. I'm Jennifer King.
There is a special message that the children who survived the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre had to say during their high school graduation. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
The children who survived the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut will be graduating high school Wednesday with mixed emotions, like 17-year-old Lily Walsenack, who was in the classroom down the hall from the shooting.
I think we can't forget about that there is a whole chunk of our class missing. And so going into graduation, we all have very mixed emotions, trying to be excited for ourselves and this accomplishment that we've worked so hard for, but also those who aren't able to share it with us who should have been able to.
The shooting killed 21st graders and 6 educators. Now that the first grade class is set to walk across the stage and receive their diplomas, for many students, the tragedy has been a call to advocate against gun violence, and they plan to continue those efforts after high school. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Production assistants, Christian Matos. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Still no agreement on a proposed ceasefire in the Middle East. I'm Clayton Neville.
Gas prices have taken a tumble. I'm Shirley Adler.
For the first time, Pamela Smart is accepting responsibility for the 1990 murder of her husband in New Hampshire. I'm Ed Donahue.
Police say a man shot 3 people at a food court in Atlanta's Peachtree Center complex. I'm Norman Hall.
A baby is missing. 4 family members are arrested, and no one is talking. I'm Katie Clark with details.
What restaurant workers will be getting a raise and hijacked in Atlanta. We'll have those stories.
He was denied treatment in an emergency room because they didn't believe he was a famous Motown singer. I'm Jeff McKay with the details.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Heavy rain in store for Florida today and severe weather expected for some. With the forecast, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The nation's midsection, specifically the upper Midwest and eastern Dakotas, will face the risk for severe thunderstorms today along the path of a cold front that will blast into warm, moist air funneling northward ahead of it, supporting the chance for damaging wind gusts, hail, and tornadoes from Minnesota southward through Iowa and as far east as places like Madison, Wisconsin this afternoon through tonight. A storm falling apart over central Texas may also be able to pop up some thunderstorms, with the center of the nation looking quite dry otherwise. Another active zone today will be Florida, especially the Florida Peninsula, as a tropical rainstorm delivers drenching, slow-moving downpours through the day. The most active part of the state should be South Florida overall, but an afternoon thunderstorm will be possible along the entire length of the peninsula. This storm is expected to deliver up to 2 feet of rain for parts of southwestern Florida, including cities such as Naples. And into the weekend, there is a low risk that this storm may organize off the Carolina coastline into what would be the first tropical storm of this 2024 Atlantic hurricane season. A mainly dry day can be expected for the rest of the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, and parts of the interior northeast, as well as parts of the Great Lakes and even the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys beneath broad high pressure. Showers are likely to be in store instead today for northeastern New England, along with perhaps a thunderstorm from northern New Hampshire into Maine. Otherwise, the heat continues to build across the interior west, threatening record highs while presenting an elevated fire risk. In Phoenix, expect sunshine and very hot conditions with a high of 112. In San Francisco, look for a mostly sunny but cooler day with a high of just 64. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. The Israel-Hamas war continues despite a UN proposal backed by the United States and Israel. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest.
The UN Security Council adopted a resolution this week proposed by the United States for a permanent ceasefire and the release of the hostages in Gaza. Hamas said that it welcomed the resolution and that it was ready to come to the table on the proposal. Hope dwindled, though, yesterday after an Israeli official said that Hamas turned down the three-stage plan, explaining that the group changed the most meaningful parameters of the potential deal. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, Secretary of State Antony Blinken urging other countries to do whatever they can to help with the humanitarian crisis in Gaza as Israel retaliates for the October 7th attacks by Hamas.
It is time for everyone to step up. And for those who've already given, and given generously, give more. The United States has for decades been the largest single country provider of assistance for Palestinians. Today, I'm announcing an additional $404 million in new aid to Palestinians, in addition to the more than $1.8 billion in development, economic, and humanitarian aid that the United States has provided since 2021.
Secretary Blinken met with Benny Gantz yesterday. He's the chairman of the National Unity Party, and this week withdrew from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition government. Gantz took to social media after the meeting to say that he stressed the importance of putting maximum pressure on mediators to get Hamas to agree to a deal. And on Capitol Hill, there's also a sense of urgency.
Terrorists have no right to take innocent hostages, and they alone bear responsibility for the consequences of their actions.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell.
These are, after all, the terrorists who repeatedly deploy their weapons and combatants in or beneath schools, hospitals, and mosques.
On the ground in the Middle East, 6 Palestinians were killed Tuesday in the occupied West Bank. Israel said that it was conducting a raid when it was met by gunfire and shot back. I'm Clayton Neville.
Motorists will appreciate that gas prices are going down as we head into the summer months. Here's correspondent Shelley Adler.
If you plan to travel by car anytime soon, there's good news at the pump.
Prices now down 18 cents in the last month. The national average across the U.S. down 30 cents a gallon from the peak that occurred back in mid-April. The national average reached a high of $3.69.
Patrick DeHaan, senior petroleum analyst at GasBuddy.com, on possible reasons why demand is down.
There are still schools in session. There's a lot of traditions in the month of June. July and August are when we tend to see gasoline demand peak. There could be price increases down the road, again, associated with that rise in demand, should it be significant. But June is really kind of the calm before the storm of summer travel.
Of course, a major hurricane could cause disruptions that could affect the price of gasoline. I'm Shelley Adler.
Just this week, 4 states have seen their average gasoline price drop below $3 a gallon. Mississippi, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas all have the lowest prices at the pump. 16 states have gas prices averaging below $3.25. You'll pay the highest amounts for gas in California, Hawaii, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington State. Those are the only states above $4 a gallon. It was 2 years ago this week that the nationwide average for a gallon of gasoline topped $5. America in the Morning continues. A woman in prison for plotting her husband's murder is hoping to get out of jail after she finally admitted taking part in the crime. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
It was a headline-grabbing story. Smart, a 22-year-old high school media coordinator, had an affair with a 15-year-old boy who later shot and killed Smart's husband, Greg.
In those spaces is where I found myself responsible for something I desperately didn't want to be responsible for. My husband's murder.
Pamela Smart is now 56 and is serving a life prison sentence. She wants to be released and says a prison writing group helped her to accept responsibility.
I had to acknowledge for the first time in my own, mind and my own heart how responsible I was, because I had deflected blame all the time.
Her last attempt at release 2 years ago was rejected. A cousin of Greg Smart tells the AP Pamela Smart never mentioned her husband by name and danced around accepting full responsibility. I'm Ed Donahue.
Shoppers in an Atlanta mall were left in terror after a shooter opened fire at the food court. Correspondent Norman Hall has the update.
The pizza places and like the Mexican restaurant, there was blood all over the place.
The shooting was captured on mall video. So was the response of an off-duty officer working security who wounded the suspect. One worker says she was terror-stricken.
My thoughts was I was never going to make it home to my son, and that scared me. And my heart was beating so fast. My co-workers' heart was beating so fast. My managers, we closed the gates, we closed everything, everybody left.
Those wounded ranged in age from 47 to 70. They and the suspect are expected to survive.
He was kind of like scoping the place around to figure out who else to shoot. So then the police started coming in a bit by bit, and then that's where they let up with him there.
He had previously been arrested multiple times and had served prison time for armed robbery. I'm Norman Hall.
Search for a missing toddler in Kentucky. Dangerous chemical concerns in Louisiana. Those stories and more ahead as we cover the nation. America in the Morning. Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. A massive search is underway in Kentucky for a missing 8-month-old girl, and police have arrested 5 people as part of their investigation, including the baby's parents and grandparents. Katie Clark is following the story.
Police were called to do a welfare check on an 8-month-old baby at a home in Reynolds Station, Kentucky, about 65 miles west of Louisville, and discovered that she had been missing for over a month. Child Protective Services contacted police because they say they were unable to locate Mia Tucker Rudd. Police went to investigate and were unable to find out the child's whereabouts. The parents, Tesla Tucker and Cage Rudd, were arrested on multiple felony drug charges, including possession of methamphetamine and fentanyl, in addition to abandonment of a minor. During the interview process, the parents were not cooperating and did not give any details about the missing girl. The baby's grandfather, who lived in the same home, was arrested for trafficking drugs and child abuse. The baby's grandmother was also taken into custody due to an outstanding warrant. As police arrived to the home, they saw a man disposing of unprescribed drugs in the driveway. He was taken into custody. So far, the investigation continues into the whereabouts of the 8-month-old girl. I'm Katie Clark.
Employees at Waffle House restaurants across the nation will soon receive more take-home pay, pushing up their salaries following a years-long effort. But someone's going to have to pay for that increase. Lisa Dwyer explains.
Waffle House CEO Joe Rogers III said base pay without tips will rise to at least $3 per hour and then gradually rise to at least $5.25 per hour by June 2026. Over the last year, the Union of Southern Service Workers has held strikes at Waffle House locations to demand higher pay, 24-hour security at restaurants, and an end to the company's practice of deducting $3.15 per day from workers' paychecks for meals, regardless of whether they eat while on the job. Rogers said wage increases will be paid for by higher menu prices. Waffle House has 2,000 restaurant locations across the U.S., primarily in the South and Midwest. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
There's concern in southeast Louisiana after researchers find high levels of dangerous chemicals that can threaten residents. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Scientists using more modern methods of measuring the carcinogen ethylene oxide have found much higher levels of the chemical along a corridor of southeastern Louisiana than expected. The chemical is used as a basis for antifreeze and polyester and for sterilizing medical equipment. Researchers from Johns Hopkins University drove 2 vans using different but updated measuring equipment multiple times over the course of a month. Levels of ethylene oxide on average were 2 to 10 times higher than what the EPA considers acceptable in terms of increased cancer risk. The research was published in the Journal of Environmental Science and Technology. I'm Julie Walker.
A rush hour that some may never forget when a person hijacked a city bus in Atlanta, leading police on a chase through 2 Georgia counties. The suspect held the driver at gunpoint during the hijacking, while 17 passengers feared for their lives. During the pursuit, police received a volume of 911 calls, not just from people on the road, but from the passengers trapped on the bus, which was stopped by a SWAT vehicle that ran the bus off the road. Police then stormed the bus and took a 39-year-old man into custody. One of the passengers was shot and killed during the hijacking. Police are expected to release more details on the incident later today. Amazon is being taken to arbitration by some of its drivers for unfair practices and lack of benefits. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
Thousands of Amazon drivers are filing arbitration claims against the mega online superstore for unpaid wages and other losses. The drivers are fighting the company's classification of them as independent contractors instead of employees that have led to other hardships as well as financial loss. These drivers are part of Amazon's Flex program, founded in 2015, that allows them to deliver packages with their own cars and a special app. Amazon pitches they work as flexible part-time opportunities that allow people to earn extra income during the hours that they choose to drive. Attorneys for the workers claim that the amount of hours worked over the span should classify them as full-time employees in the states where they're filing for arbitration. An Amazon spokesperson touted the benefits of the Flex program, saying it gives them the opportunity to set their own schedule, be their own boss, while earning competitive pay. Bitcoin down nearly 3% to 6,700 and Ethereum at 3,504. Tell us what you think at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman's Sports is sponsored by Untuckit. Get your Father's Day gifts at our 80-plus stores or untuckit.com. Untuckit shirts, designed to be worn untucked. Here's the Wednesday edition. Robert?
The 5 best teams in baseball all won on Tuesday. Top of the heap, the Yankees routed the Royals 10-1. Aaron Judge hit his league-leading 25th homer. Phillies flattened the Red Sox 4-1. Kyle Schwarber homered twice. Zach Wheeler won his 8th straight. Bad news, though. Catcher JT Realmuto will have surgery today on his right meniscus. That'll likely sideline him until after the All-Star break. Wheeler says the Phils will miss him.
It's a big blow, that's for sure. JT's, I think, the best in the game. He's caught me just about every start that I've pitched here.
Elsewhere, the Pirates clipped the Cardinals 2-1. Great starting pitching. Miles Michaelis took a no-hitter into the 7th for St. Louis. Rookie Paul Skeens fanned 8 and 6 1/3 scoreless for Pittsburgh. All of the scoring came in the 9th inning. The Dodgers smacked 5 Jacks, 4 of them in a 7-run 6th, as they romped over the Rangers 15-2. Will Smith hit a 3-run shot in the 1st, then Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman went back-to-back to start the onslaught. Orioles shut out the Braves. Albert Suarez and the Princes kept Atlanta in the can on just 5 hits. Jorge Mateo belted a 3-run homer in his first at-bat since coming off the concussion list. Blue Jays blanked the Brewers. You say Kikuchi, and I say combined with 4 relievers on a 5-hitter. Rays scored 4 in the 9th, capped by Brandon Lau's walk-off 3-run blast to corral the Cubs. Mariners rallied past the White Sox. Cal Raleigh, who won Monday's game with a walk-off granny, drove in 3 runs with a pair of doubles. Nationals nipped the Tigers in 10. Wins for the Rockies, Guardians, Marlins, Astros, and Diamondbacks. NBA Finals resume tonight in Dallas. The Celtics lead the Mavericks 2-0. Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals is tomorrow night in Edmonton. The Panthers up 2-0 on the Oilers. And golf's U.S. Open begins tomorrow at Pinehurst, North Carolina. 2-time major champion Jon Rahm has dropped out of the field due to a foot infection. That's Wednesday Sports.
Thank you, sir. A change at Disney as CEO Iger says they've moved away from agenda-driven content. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Purportedly to downplay any racial overtones, Disney Theme Parks is rebranding a ride that had been associated with a movie. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta explains.
That
Step aside, Briar Rabbit. Tiana is taking over. Disney parks are updating the Splash Mountain log flume ride to become Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Splash Mountain had used elements from the 1946 movie Song of the South, which contains racist tropes about blacks and plantation life. Tiana's Bayou Adventure is based on the 2009 film The Princess and the Frog, which features Tiana as Disney's first black princess. Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens later this month at Walt Disney World in Florida and later this year at Disneyland in California. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Actor Kevin Spacey gave an interview detailing his recent legal problems. Kevin Carr has more on that story.
Kevin Spacey is speaking out after multiple allegations of sexual assault. The two-time Oscar winner appeared on Piers Morgan Uncensored to talk about how these cases have impacted his life. In the 98-minute interview, Spacey admitted to varying degrees of what he described as, quote, bad behavior.
What's your idea of bad behavior?
Pushing the boundaries.
In what way? I mean,
being too handsy, touching someone sexually.
Groping people.
In a way that I didn't know at the time they didn't want.
Spacey's troubles began in 2017 when he was accused of sexual assault by an actor who was underage at the time. While he was found not liable in court, more than 50 other people have since leveled accusations. The cost of defending these accusations have left him without a home, he claims.
Where I have been living in Baltimore is being foreclosed on. My house is being sold at auction.
Why is it being foreclosed?
Because I can't pay the bills that I owe.
Spacey was found not guilty of multiple accusations last year in the UK, and he is currently fighting charges in a civil trial in the US.
I still owe a lot of legal bills that I have not been able to pay.
You're actually in debt?
Yes.
Do you mind me asking how much you owe?
It's considerable.
Millions?
Many millions, yes.
In his interview with Piers Morgan, the 64-year-old actor touched on other topics, including his family history, Harvey Weinstein, and his interactions with the British royals. I'm Kevin Carr.
A Motown legend was rushed to the hospital and faced scorn and rebuke because emergency room workers didn't believe who he was. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay tells us what happened next.
Alexander Morris, who suffers from cardiac issues, was having difficulty breathing and was rushed to a hospital in Warren, Michigan. But his problems really began when he told hospital staff who he is. It was at that point when Morris claimed the emergency room workers said he was delusional, took off his oxygen, physically restrained him for 90 minutes, and then he was ordered to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, all because he told the doctor and the nurse treating him that he's the lead singer of the legendary Motown group, the Four Tops. Hospital workers denied his claims, and then they also denied him medical care. He only received the proper medical treatment after his wife arrived with a video showing Morris performing at the Grammy Awards. As an apology, the hospital offered him a $25 gift card. In response, Morris is now suing the hospital for discrimination. I'm Jeff McKay.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Production assistants Christian Matos. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.